Fighter Alpha 3. Here comes a new challenger. That's enough! Unbeatable!
This is the Eltrouble Street Fighter Alpha 3 podcast with your hosts, Quest and Lukefitz.
It's showtime!
Hello and welcome to the 5th episode of the Street Fighter Alpha Libs podcast. I'm Luke and I'm joined as always by my co-host Quest. And today it is an honor and privilege to welcome one of the leading Super Turbo players in the world. This man is a bit of a hero on and off the arcade machine. Within the game, he's played at a high level against most of the best players in the world. Outside the game, he's been a pillar of the ST Revival community and in many ways is responsible for keeping Super Turbo alive and well all the way to 2020. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our guest for this episode all the way from the USA, Eltrouble. And I'll hand over to Quest to kick off the interview.
Thanks, Luke. And welcome to the podcast, Eltrouble. How are you today?
I'm great, man. Happy to be here. Thanks for the invite, guys. You guys are definitely gassing me up a little more than I deserve.
I know, it's 100% deserved.
We hear that from every guest. That it's our job. So the name Eltrouble. Why did you choose the name Eltrouble?
Okay, so first off, I hate the name Eltrouble. It's a really stupid handle that I made up when I was like 12 or something like that. So I won't be too long-winded because I usually am. But anyways, back then, it was like my first time playing online video games against other players.
Yep.
And that was with the Half-Life 1 way back in 98, 99, whatever that was.
Yeah.
And like I went through several different like made-up names, as you do. But basically, I got the nickname Troublemaker just because I was really lucky at playing certain card games. Just the way it is. And then
In real life,
or
lucky you playing card games in real life.
yeah, in real life. And then
right.
EL is my real name initials, my full name initials. So I thought, as a 12-year-old, I thought, wow, I'll be really clever and call myself Eltrouble. So it's kind of like my name's in there, my nickname is in there, and it's kind of like the trouble in really bad Spanglish.
Yep.
So yeah, that just kind of stuck, and like I haven't been able to come up with a better name since. So it just kind of stuck, and now it's my handle.
Yeah.
Was Super Turbo the first game that you played competitively in terms of Street Fighter games?
Yeah, first game I'd say I played like tournaments and whatnot. But definitely not the first game I played like very seriously and hardcore and intensely. That'd probably be more Half-Life 1, the original Counter-Strike, etc. Pretty much took up the majority of my teenage years. Playing those FPS games. But yeah, definitely Super Turbo was my first game where I kind of took it seriously and wanted to break it down and get better and join tournaments and make a name for myself and all that kind of stuff.
Any chance to make a comeback to the first-person shooter tournament scene out of retirement?
I'm getting old, man. It's getting harder and harder. Like I don't feel like the reflexes are that much worse than it used to be, but definitely like the time commitment and the interest.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm sure many people can relate. Like once you get older, like other priorities take over, like a full-time job, family, whatever. So I think at this point I still play games for fun primarily, but like tournaments are a way for me to meet new people, travel, so like I have more fun, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that makes sense. How long have you been playing Super Turbo competitively for?
So competitively, I will count it for my first like actual tournament, and it was I think the end of 2011. So I'm fairly new school as far as FGC has go. Yeah, people tend to think I'm like super old school just because I play Street Fighter 2. And I do have some experience, like, playing Street Fighter 2 when it first came out in the arcade, and I played a lot on the SNES version, which is a really good version. But yeah, competitively since 2011, thereabouts.
What was that first tournament experience like? Like, was it kind of in that, Wednesday night fights kind of scene with all those like legendary players? Like, what, was it the normal kind of first tournament experience of just getting smashed by everyone?
Yeah, you pretty much hit it dead on. My first tournament was during Wednesday Night Fights when they were happening at Super Arcade. So Wednesday Night Fights had already been happening for a while, but they had just moved to Super Arcade because Mike Watson took over the arcade. and was managing that. And so they had a kind of a partnership between Level Up Live, who runs Wednesday Night Fights, and the Super Arcade owner. And yeah, back then they had Wednesday Night Fights, and we actually went there for a Street Fighter 4 tournament. And it just so happens that the local TO there, his name is Muffin Man. He's been around SoCal scene for a long time. He started doing these like $2 tournaments. You pay $2, you get put in a double elim bracket for Super Turbo. You know, kind of like a fun thing you can do while waiting for your other matches. And yeah, that's how I got hooked into it. And I remember my first tournament, I was feeling myself because I was okay at the game. I wasn't horrible, but I wasn't gonna take out serious players.
Yeah.
So I won my first 2 matches pretty convincingly. Okay,
Wow.
whatever. And then my third match, Muffin Man's like, okay, your next opponent is DGV. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, this guy is a known legend in the community. Been playing for over a decade, multiple top 8 finishes at Evo.
Yeah, killer on Fight 8 as well.
Yeah, man, he's a really good player with a well-deserved reputation. And I got smashed, but yeah, man, that's how it was.
Were you playing Dowson then, even in the early days, or Guile? I think I've heard some of that Guile was your original character.
Yeah, so when I first played like the original Street Fighter 2, it was always a Ryu and Guile. That was kind of my go-to. I think everyone back then had a Ryu and or a Guile. And when you play Ryu and Guile in Super Turbo, it's very, very similar to how they used to be in like the CPS1 versions. And so yeah, I played Ryu in the early days, and then eventually I changed to old Guile because Mike Watson like kind of inspired me to pick up old Guile. And then went to Dalsum after that. So yeah. Ryu first.
There aren't many, like we know you as a Dalsum player. There aren't many Dalsum players though in America. Why do you think that is?
I think part of it is that even though Dalsum is definitely like a top 2, top 3 character, he's very strong in the game. But I feel like he's very difficult to learn, especially if like, you're like a newcomer to Super Turbo or a newcomer to fighting games in general. I feel like the amount of knowledge you need just to play Dalsum, even at a basic level, is extremely high. So you got to put a lot of study, a lot of practice into that character before he becomes like a top tier character. So I think that level of work is like daunting to a lot of people. So it just feels easier just to go to like a Ryu, a Chun, a Honda, an old Sagat, an easier character to learn that you can get immediate results with, as opposed to Dalsum, who, if you play him for a year, you're probably gonna lose at every single tournament you go to, 0-2, 1-2, whatever, until it like finally starts clicking, and like all your knowledge and practice and reflexes kind of come together, and then you become very, very strong. But yeah, I think that initial hurdle is a big obstacle for a lot of players.
Where do you think you're at with your Dalsim knowledge? Like, I've heard people describe it as like you never feel like you're fully kind of at the point where you want to be. Like, do you think there's still things that you're improving on in your game, or still new like tech that you're uncovering, or are you pretty much like solid in your knowledge and it's just like matchups or like playing against specific people now that you're working on?
So I feel like in terms of knowledge, I think I'm pretty complete. There's not too many situations where I'm completely caught off guard. When weird things happen and scrambles happen, I can kind of suss out why it happened and like not to be too worried about it. But for me, it's definitely getting my reflexes down, getting my muscle memory. I have horrendous execution, even with Dalsum, who's like not a very combo heavy character, but like I'll mess up things all the time. And it's very frustrating to the point where like it's kind of become a meme where whenever I play in tournaments, the commentators will call out, oh yeah, he pulled the Eltrouble, he missed a short slice super. Pretty standard. So I don't feel like my knowledge is lacking, but where I'm definitely lacking is like the amount of time that I actually practice and play different players, especially high level players. So there's that aspect to it. And yeah, I've never felt like I was comfortable in the game. I always feel like there's so much more for me to work on, to practice, to improve upon. And I feel like that's kind of the same with every SD player. Even the very best ones, I don't feel like they're like super confident. They just play their best and hope for the best, but ultimately no one's ever perfect. You just kind of like chase perfection.
Do you think that problem is particular for Dalsum more so than other characters, even though it's true for other characters? Because there's so much to Dalsum to learn.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Yeah, certainly every player, every character has there's pros and cons, ups and downs. But I feel like with Dalsum, there's like almost no excuse because your character is so strong. It's kind of like with Dalsum, if you play perfectly, you should win every matchup, every single matchup, even the bad matchups or close to even matchups.
Does he beat Claw as well?
Yeah, like even though Claw is probably his only bad matchup, it's still very, very winnable. It's a matchup that I would consider unstable. Like there's some matchups in the game that are like 6-4 and 7-3 that are very stable. Like the entire time you are grinding to get a win. But I feel like with Dalsum, it feels like 7-3 only like when you can't like lock him down with the mix-ups. But once you start landing mix-ups, then all of a sudden it becomes like a 7-3 match in your favor, and you can kill Claw off a single mix-up. So it's kind of like chasing that high kind of situation.
Yeah.
Playing flawless. Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I haven't seen Wednesday night fights in a while. Why did you stop it? And are there any plans to resume it?
Okay, so originally, we ran Wednesday night fights for probably a good year and a half, 2 years, and it was fun. And we got a lot of players coming out, a lot of new players, a lot of old players, and it was great. But the only problem is that usually Wednesday night fights run super late into the night. We're talking like well into the early morning hours, like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, sometimes 4 o'clock on a rare occasion.
Wow.
Yeah, and so you can imagine what kind of hell that could wreak on your personal life.
Yeah. On that
Going
FGC
into,
time.
Yeah. So it was really hurting our performance Thursday through Friday in terms of work and family and social activities. So we collectively all just felt like we should just take a break and maybe come back at a different time. And to answer the second part of that question, we were thinking about bringing Wednesday night fights back at least on a monthly basis. And then that was probably a few months ago, and then this coronavirus stuff started hitting, so it pretty much shut down all our plans for the foreseeable future.
So in a post-corona world, there is hope that you'll bring back Wednesday night fights.
Oh, most definitely. I think if anything, there'll be a higher demand for more FGC events and weeklies after the coronavirus world.
Yep.
Because I feel like a lot of us are kind of cooped up and trapped, and we're all just like gearing to ready to go out, have fun, and meet up with people again. So yeah, I guess that's one silver lining to the coronavirus situation is I think FGC turnout at locals and majors is going to be a lot higher because we're all just dying to get out and be social again and meet other people.
In your time as a player, what was your biggest win? Whether it be a tournament or like a rival that you struggled against?
Biggest win. Well, I'll give you two answers because I like cheating that way.
You're a Dale.
Yeah, I'm a Dalsum player. I like all of the above kind of situation.
Yeah.
My first big win was probably the team tournament at EVO 2013, I think. That was the year we held ST games, and it was a EVO tournament where we held 4 Super Turbo tournaments. It was a singles, a ratio, a team tournament, and I forget the last one. I think it's just like a regular tournament. And yeah, it was a 3-on-3 team tournament, and me and my team were doing pretty well, and we got matched up against DGV's team. And as it just happens, DGV has been beating my butt all year long.
Yep.
In Super Turbo, Dalsum or not, he would just always beat me. And then so it came down to me versus him. We were both anchors on our team, so whoever won that game won. It was a best of 1 game. And then we were doing pretty well. I won a round, he won a round, but it was very, very close. It was like mere pixels away from beating each other. Mm-hmm. And then the last exchange, he had a super, and I was Dalsum kind of far away. And we were both like pump faking, trying to like get each other to commit to something. Because we were playing super cautious, because we both realized like, hey, whoever lands a hit is going to win.
Yeah. So
we were both pump faking, whatever. And he was trying to reaction super because he's DGV and he's insane like that. And so I threw out like a far crouch medium punch, the one that kind of goes halfway across the screen. Mm-hmm. And somehow he reacts to it and does a super. But he does it kind of late, so that I recover my medium punch and I do jump back, light kick drill, I hit him right in the face and I win.
Yeah, good bait. 100% planned out.
Yeah, but like I was like so shocked that kind of worked out. It doesn't usually work out that way, but it just so happened the frame data and such worked out. So yeah, when I beat him, I popped off so hard. I have no idea. Me and Muffin Man were celebrating. Oh, it was me, Muffin Man, and Hypenated, who was an online Phalon player. It was his first event, so we were like, you know what, let's just have fun, let's team up. Yeah. Me and Muffin Man were already good friends at that point, so we were gonna team up anyways, and then we just threw him in. But yeah, my whole team celebrated, and DGV was kind of dejected. But I gave him a high five and a hug because that was the first time I've ever beat him in a game. So it was a good moment for me. So that's the first moment. The second one was definitely winning Combo Breaker 2018. I think that was my first big tournament win. So that entire journey from start to finish was very enjoyable for me.
With Chun-Li, where do you rank her in the tier list? Is she top tier or just below it?
God, I hate her. There's a lot of hate for Chun-Li. Some deserve, some not. But in all honesty, I feel like she's a strong character, and I probably put her like top 5 for sure. Guaranteed top 5. Some would say top 3, top 4. So it's debatable, but definitely a top 5 character. She's very, very strong in the right hands, and even her bad matchups are not usually too horrible. They're all very winnable, and she definitely has a very strong track record of winning. There's a bunch of players all over the world, in France and America and Japan, who have been winning with that character. But I feel like that's more of a player thing, more so than a character. So yeah, I think she's strong, and she's really annoying. We all hate her, but I don't think she's like up there with Claw and Dawson.
So what? Just on that, like, I feel like one of the most interesting thing that's happened in Super Turbo in the last kind of 5 or 10 years is the rise of certain characters up the tier list, like especially in some of the Japanese tournaments. Like, there was the O-Hawk stuff with the, the weird setups, like that kind of got you those like infinite loops throws in the corner. And then like recently, all the Fei Long stuff, I feel like he's been kind of rising up the tier list as well. Like, what do you think the next big thing in Super Turbo is in terms of a character that's maybe a bit underappreciated, like, really being able to fight some of the higher tier characters?
That's a good question, and it's really hard to answer because I feel like in Super Turbo it feels very limiting compared to what you can do in a lot of other games. Like, with the Alpha series, there's a lot of potential with custom combos, and CVS2 there's roll cancels and K-Group setups and whatnot. But I feel like ST is pretty limited in mechanics, so it feels like at times there's not much more to discover. And then, like you say, like a Fei Long player will just put in a bunch of work, and all of a sudden he's rising up the tier lists. And yeah, it's pretty incredible to see that such a simple game can have so much change throughout the many decades it's been around. But I feel like at this point, I don't know who else there is to learn. Maybe like, I don't know, it's hard to tell. Maybe like a dictator or a Ken, because they're kind of mid-tier right now, and there's maybe some more potential there. But I feel like at this point, the game is pretty much figured out in terms of the general tier list of where everyone belongs.
No hope for a Blanca? No hope for some new tech, some like crazy infinite with Blanca or something?
He's a Blanca main, by the way.
I don't know. I feel like with Blanca, there hasn't been so much like advancement with like tech.
No.
With Blanca, but it's been like more like the players have gotten really, really good and incredible. So I feel like a lot of his tools have stayed the same. It's just players are using them in a much more efficient, consistent fashion. So with guys like Fromo or Komoda, I feel like
Komoda,
tech wasn't there. I know he's insane, but again, when you watch him, like nothing he does is terribly complicated that the average Blanca player can't do. He just knows how and when to do it, along with having insane fundamentals. So I feel like with Blanca, there's not much more tech to explore. It's just like improving yourself as a player, like learning footsies, having insane reactions, smart mix-ups and reads and baits, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, tech-wise, not much more to him, I don't think.
Yeah, sure. Just on like people like Komoda, what's been your experience playing against some of these Japanese like legends of Super Turbo? Like we were very interestedly watching your match from the there was some kind of like Daigo Moment 37 kind of exhibition series or something. We saw you played Super Turbo against Daigo there. Like, what's the experience of playing him or some of these other like just amazing Japanese players that have played in the arcades for the last?
Well, actually, on the Daigo question, could you explain the background behind that? Because I remember talking to you about.
Yeah, I was gonna say I hate that video, even though it's probably like the most viewed video of mine.
Oh really? That's a sick match.
Losing horribly. It was sick, but I was. Yeah, but I was so mad because I told Quest this last week, but basically that tournament, it was like a top 8 on stage kind of situation. So we were playing, and I think I lost to Mike Watson at that time, or like 4th place or 5th place or whatever. And as soon as I lost, I was like, okay, I lost. It kind of sucks. I wish I won, but it's all good. And then my buddy Afrocole was like sitting in the front row, and then him being Africal, if you know him, he's very happy and loving. He goes, "Hey, you finally lost. We can start drinking now." I'm like, sweet, we can start drinking, having fun for once. So, yeah, we're in the front row just watching the tournament play out, and we're drinking beers or whatever. And then all of a sudden, I think it was Mike Watson or Vi hops on the mic and says, "Okay, now we got a surprise exhibition against Daigo and Hara." I'm like, "Are you serious?" If I had known you're gonna bring out Daigo, I would have taken this super seriously, studied his videos and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, by the time I fought Daigo, I was already pretty pissed and kind of 3 beers in. So I wasn't completely drunk, but I was inebriated enough to be a little slower than usual. So I did okay, but I felt like, man, I'm playing in slow motion. I can't think right now. I just want to play and get it over with. I'm not gonna win in this condition.
So you're saying on a, given perfect conditions, you pretty much would have beaten him. It's a call out.
Given perfect, I think I would have given him a much closer fight than what actually happened, which I'm pretty sure I got beat 2-0, 3-0. But I think now I'm definitely competitive.
There was some amazing rounds in there though. There was some where you had full kind of control in the corner and large life lead, and then he gets the one knockdown. And it's like magic. He just walks forward, overhead sweep, walks forward, gets a throw. There's just the psychological strength that he has is amazing. Could you feel that playing him just for those few games, or was it just kind of a regular game?
So definitely I feel like the power of Daigo is his ability to adapt to whatever you're doing and recognize tendencies and punish you on those tendencies. Even really small ones like which ranges you're playing at, how long do you block before you hit a button, stuff like that, really small stuff in Super Turbo, which I think is one of the great strengths of the game in Super Turbo, is that you're not given a lot of breaks during the actual round. You have to pay attention to everything because every single thing they do, or especially things they don't do, is super important. And I feel like guys like Valle and Daigo definitely have that ability. And so it's very impressive playing a player who's that cerebral, who can pick up that much on your tendencies and adapt. I feel like Daigo's overall strength is definitely his ability to adapt. He's he has good mix-ups, good pressure, but ultimately it's his ability to suss out your strategy and know how to counter it perfectly, almost intuitively. That makes him Daigo, essentially.
How intuitive do you think that is for someone like Valle? Maybe it might be a bit hard with Daigo with the language barrier and stuff, but do you get the sense Valle is consciously thinking about these tendencies that he's picking up, or is he more just kind of is it just something that happens intuitively, based on how many games he's played in the past and what he's seen before?
Well, I can't speak for Valle as far as other games, but I feel like in Super Turbo you really don't have enough time to stop and take a breather and pause and have an inner monologue with yourself.
Street Fighter 4, where you just walk around and do floaty jumps and stuff for 10 seconds.
Right. Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5, there's definitely moments in a match where you can kind of take a breather, reset, figure out a strategy, or maybe you got caught in a combo, now you're sitting there getting hit by a 10-string combo, and then you have time to think. But in ST, I really feel like it's a culmination of his experiences in fighting games, plus perhaps a bit of natural talent. And he just something in his intuition tells him, okay, I should do this now. I don't know why, but it feels right. Mm-hmm. And afterwards, if you talk to him, he'll explain it to you. But I think even he is not fully conscious of it in the moment. It's sort of a subconscious thing that comes out when you play. You just feel it. Yeah. And I think when you play fighting games for a while, you tap into that more and more the better you get as a player. There are certain decisions you don't really think about. You just feel in your heart, okay, this is the right thing to do. Even though it's risky, even though on paper it's stupid, you should go for it because it's definitely going to work. And I take that to heart because one of Valle's greatest sayings is that at the highest level, there's always a little bit of randomness, a little bit of wild, aggressive activity, even at a high level. Everybody knows that people like to mash reversal uppercut, right, when they're knocked down. And that scene is a scrubby strategy. But then once you play better and better players, it kind of circles back around to becoming a good strategy because now they think you'll never do it because it's so dumb. And then you pull it out. It's wow, that's stupid but brilliant. So that's
how come whenever I get that feeling that I just got to do this now, I always jump and get uppercut in the face. What
you gotta believe? Yeah, you gotta believe.
I believe in my jumps. I believe in every single time I jump forward.
ST is about commitment. You have to commit to your dumb ideas. Otherwise, the game will just make you fail.
That's my problem. I'm not committing enough when I do dumb stuff. I just gotta really go full brainless if I'm gonna go brainless.
That's the thing. I feel like in Super Turbo, whatever you decide to do, whether it's smart dumb, whatever. You have to commit to really doing it with your heart and soul, you know? So
Yeah.
like win or lose, you at least played the way you wanted to play. Because then if you play, you're always scared, you're always like doubting yourself, then like that's not great for you as a player. It's not a great feeling to have. You're probably gonna lose anyway, so you might as well just commit yourself to the moment.
Yeah.
Just do it. Yeah.
Kind of linked to that, I got a quote from Anakin, obviously like a famous, Japanese Super Turbo player, about someone asked him in an interview, why does he think that Super Turbo has had so much longevity and popularity? And his response was, I think it's because players with very little knowledge or techniques can have good matches with more skilled players. I believe players who have good interpersonal relationships and courage can have good matches. What's your reaction to that quote?
Yeah, that was a very good quote. I always enjoy listening to what the Japanese players have to say about Super Turbo because obviously they've been in the game for 20 plus years, some of these guys, so they're gonna have a different level of, I don't know, perspective than most guys playing Super Turbo. But I think he's spot on. Like Super Turbo is a game where you can learn something really dumb and cheap in like 5 minutes and beat other players using that dumb technique that took very little skill to learn. And then it'll take a lot more time to learn the defensive option to beat that. And then now you got to learn something else that's kind of different and new. And that's kind of how ST is built. It's building a foundation of cheap stuff, defensive counters to beat that cheap stuff, and over and over and over again. Yeah. So you have this kind of like body of knowledge and experience and ability that makes for a really exciting match. But I think he's spot on. To like simplify it, I would go with what Valle says, which is that ST is a easy game to learn but super difficult to master. Yeah, I think lends to very good game design. But yeah, anyone can hop on and just like jump around, have fun, do dumb stuff. But like if you really want to take the game seriously, you're rewarded with the amount of work you put in, the amount of study you put in, and all the videos you watch, and it creates a really great fighting game experience between you and your opponent at any level.
Well, one of the things that have helped the longevity of the game is all the re-releases we've seen. What is your opinion on the latest re-release, the 30th anniversary edition of Super Turbo?
Honestly, I think as a video game product, it's fantastic. For the money you pay and having access to all those games, it's amazing. It's a great way to like play fighting games. It comes with 12 games, I believe. Yeah, you can have fun. You can mess around with your friends. You can play online, offline. It's a great mode of accessibility for people who want to play all these old school games but don't want to, buy an old console or download an emulator on PC or whatever. So in terms of the actual product, it's very, very good. I think the main issues with it is when it comes to like competitive play. The online is a bit lacking. The netcode is kind of inconsistent. Some people have great matches, other people have bad matchups. But the other thing is, like, I know for ranked play, the speed is way too high on Super Turbo. It's super fast. So I think that turns a lot of people away. Yeah, it's way too fast for competitive play.
Some of the like dip switches in the arcade or something are like set to the higher setting, or like what is that? Is it just a poorly like ported version? Yeah. I've never heard that.
Yeah, it's just lacking a few features. Like for ranked, they just set you can't change the speed on ranked because it's ranked, right? You can't change the rule set. So just the default speed they chose is super fast.
Okay,
it's fast. It's fast offline. It's super fast online when there's like lag introduced.
Yeah.
So that's one reason why I think ranked is very poor in that game. Offline is fine. You can like change the speed settings to for offline. It's great. And I think the training mode is actually very good for basic things like learning basic combos and timings. But there are some like training mode glitches in that game. I know Alpha especially has some bad glitches in there. A lot of Alpha 3 players were complaining about it. So before the game was actually released, some players had access to a beta version of 30 AC, and a lot of like Alpha 3 heads here in SoCal, and they were really focused on making sure that the 30 AC was as close to arcade perfect as possible because as you guys know, like all these console versions always tout themselves as arcade perfect, and they never are.
Yeah, and Alpha 3 players are absolutely like insane about arcade perfectness. It's like a whole thing in the community.
Exactly, and ST players are very much the same way.
Yeah, it's a big debate at the moment in the community. We've got a question from SPD for you. He says, ask Eltrouble if he's willing to main another character in tournament.
So the answer's pretty easy, actually. Yes, I am totally down to main a different character. No, I don't hate myself that much.
Yeah.
Actually, I can't play Blanca at a very basic level. But the answer is yeah, I'm totally open to learning new characters. Actually, it might not be a secret anymore, but like within SoCal and a few tournaments I've been to, I've been playing a lot of Dictator lately,
Okay.
and I've been having so much fun with playing him and Ken too, but like more so Dictator. And so I've been having a blast because that character is super well designed. One of my top, favorite fighting game characters of all time in any fighting game. And I love his gameplay, and I've been doing pretty well with him so far here. So I think down the line, it's very possible I might change to playing Dictator.
Have you got your Dizzy combos going?
Oh, I do. Oh my god, you have no idea how good I felt landing that for the first time. I felt like a god. Because you can't do that with Dalsum. You might land a stun and do like a Yoga Inferno, that's it. But not too much fanciness. But I feel like with Dalsum, the design of Dalsum is such where like it's fun for me to play Dalsum, but for my opponent, it's probably very frustrating and annoying. Whereas with Dictator, I feel like whatever match I play, we're both having fun. We both have agency. There's things we both can do. So like winning feels so much better with Dictator than it ever does with Dalsum. Yeah, because like Dalsum, like you can beat like a really talented like a Blanca or a Geef player just because the matchup is so horrible. But I feel like with Dictator, he has so many bad matchups or like close to even matchups, a few good matchups that you really have to like earn every single win that you make, and it feels good. So yeah.
That's true, but with Dictator, I've seen him win a few tournaments before. I think it was a Torrican tournament. Was it Archvillain won it? And Riz won. Same win.
Yeah, Arshad and Riz, they're very good Dictator players, and I think playing Riz a lot has really like opened me up to the idea of playing him seriously as my new main character. But he's a really amazing character. I recommend everyone try Dictator. He's really fun.
Well, speaking of Rizwan, you lost to him in the grand finals of the Spring Series LA qualifier, but you've qualified for the up to $10,000 tournament. Is that correct?
That is correct. Unfortunately, with the coronavirus stuff going on, that event has been indefinitely postponed. So that's a big bummer for all of us because we were all looking forward to Spring Series because it's an event where we can all get together across the U.S. and go to one tournament and have a lot of setups and play and meet and all that kind of stuff. But also there was several Japanese invites who were going there as well, some of whom haven't been to America ever or haven't gone in a long time. So I was looking forward to hanging out with those guys. But yeah, for now, thanks to coronavirus, it's been postponed indefinitely.
How many strong players are there in Japan who just never come out to America? Like we definitely see some of them in like the Evo Tournament of Legends and that kind of thing. Like, is there a really like deep scene there with like dozens of people that are on a similar level to these guys that we know about that just are kind of Japanese arcade only players?
Yes, it's a short answer to that. Japan truly feels like a magical place where like a lot of fighting game talent and hustle kind of exists there in multiple arcades and game centers. It's weird because even when you go to Japan, there's like a bunch of famous players, some of whom travel and are really famous. But there are many good players there. A lot of whom like no one even knows them. Like one time I went to Hay and there was a really good DJ player, and he was beating everybody, including the famous players. And I asked one of the Japanese guys like, "Who is this guy?" And they're like, "I have no idea who he is. He just shows up and plays like after work, and he never ever goes to tournaments, and he doesn't talk to anybody. He's just like a die-hard like stereotypical salaryman." Who just shows up to the arcade every day after work in like the traditional salaryman, dress shirt and suit and just play and just win and then just go home. And they never join tournaments because they don't care. They just want to play video games. That's a very common experience across Japan. So there's killers everywhere we don't know about who are very good across multiple games.
Are there any Japanese Dalsum players in particular that you learned from?
So learning the game, I didn't really have like a mentor or a tutor here who specifically played Dalsum. So I always joke that my mentor was YouTube. I would just YouTube like pretty much any Dalsum I could find that was playing at a pretty high level, which included everyone from Afro Cole and Alex Wolf here in the U.S., John Rambo, to Japanese players like Jayan, Hakase, KKY, Shin, all those kind of guys, Yoshimura. So I feel like my experience as Dalsum, learning the character is a culmination of many different Dalsums that I've seen online. And usually, like, I study their matchups, and I go, okay, I'm gonna try that counter or that strategy, see how I like it, see if it's consistent, and I go and test it out in like practice or in tournaments. Usually is where I do the most quote unquote practice.
Yeah.
And then I have that like Bruce Lee philosophy of like, if it works, keep it. If not, just discard it and find something else. And so I'm very proud to have built my own playstyle with Dalsum that I haven't copied any other player perfectly. But I think the first time I fought Matsun, I think I made like a good impression on him because I talked to him afterward, and it felt like, fighting you, it felt like I was fighting Jayan. Like, you're not as good at him, obviously, but like, same color, and so I think kind of on accident, I sort of like my playstyle matches closest with Jayan.
Yeah. Okay.
And so me and Jayan have a pretty good relationship. He's my homie. He's my older brother.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, so I think, if any playstyle I kind of somewhat emulate unintentionally, it'd be Jayan's, but yep.
Some of the older Wednesday night fight vids, I saw something called Troll Coin. Who introduced it, and what was the purpose of it?
So Troll Coin was started by my good friend Sergeyev over at Arcadium. He runs a stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/Arcadium, and he plays a bunch of different games. But typically on Monday night, he does like an online 5K tournament for Super Turbo. Mm-hmm. And so besides being a streamer and a Super Turbo guy, he actually is really involved with cryptocurrency. And so he made his own called Troll Coin, just for fun, essentially. But then in the last few years, I think he's like taking it really seriously, and he's been like trying to like hand out free troll coin to people to get them interested in troll coin, and so he's passed out quite a bit of troll coin just for fun and to get people interested in cryptocurrencies. So he gave a bunch to me like way back in the day just for fun, and like maybe I like won an online tournament. He gave it to me, but the last time I checked my account balance, and it was like $450 worth of troll coin, which is insane.
So you can convert it to real cash.
Yes, I can cash that in and turn it to real currency.
Wow.
So I was like, wow, how did this like grow in value on accident? I didn't even pay attention to it.
Is this an investment advice? Like, what would you advise people to, like, maybe they're saving up a bit of money because of the coronavirus situation? Like, would you advise them to invest that in troll coin?
Hey, if they're interested in cryptocurrency, it can't hurt to like spread your portfolio out, Like, Bitcoin at this point is pretty expensive to get to invest in, but
yeah, for sure.
It's like Dogecoin and troll coins. If you're into that, I'd ask Sergey of Arcadium. I'm not the expert. I just got handed a bunch of money and somehow it grew. I could be accidentally laundering money. I have no idea what's going on. I know I'm involved in some sort of illegal conspiracy I didn't know about, but ask Sergey about Arcadia if you're interested in that kind of stuff. Yeah,
what do you think about mob and organized crime involvement in the FGC?
I mean, these kind of guys like that are always looking for avenues to clean their money, so to speak. So
for sure.
If any FBI, SCI are listening, I'm not personally involved with that kind of stuff. I hold myself unaccountable for the actions of my co-conspirators. But I mean, it's gonna happen. People are gonna find ways to turn dirty money to clean money through any avenue they can find. So, like, I have no comment on that. It happens.
Wow, it's interesting. So just on
Sergeyev.
Yeah, I was gonna ask this. You go.
Was he actually putting on like a fake accent, or was it like natural accent at the time?
Ooh, I can't reveal trade secrets. You gotta ask him about that.
We've done deep analysis of multiple YouTube videos on this. We've gone deep into the internet. We want to hear it from the source. Is the accent in the tutorial videos fake?
Man, trade secrets, man. If you want the truth, you gotta talk to him. I can't,
Okay, fair enough. We will talk to him.
Good. I hope you guys do. It'll be a fun conversation.
When you were making those tutorial vids, did you expect them to get the reception they got? Because it seemed to be mostly positive. You put a lot of people into there. Were you expecting that sort of result?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Basically, when I started making those tutorials, it was mostly because I felt like there was a lack of Super Turbo content available, just in general, but especially on YouTube. And I think that's still true to this day. Even though there is slightly more content than there used to be, I think there's still a need for more content because Super Turbo is such a weird, strange game that I think it needs a little more explanation. But at the time, there wasn't much out there, and I was really inspired by tutorials made by David Serlin for HDR, and Damdai made a few tutorials called Super Turbo Saturdays that were really good. But I felt like there was absolutely nothing there for like beginner level players who, like, maybe they have some experience in fighting games, but none in Super Turbo, or maybe they have like no experience in fighting games at all and are starting with Super Turbo. So I made those tutorials aimed at that level of player because there wasn't anything out there. And so, I mean, you guys have seen the videos. They're very rough, completely unedited. We literally just like streamed those tutorials over at twitch.tv/Arcadium way back in the day.
Yeah.
And then we just do like a mass export to YouTube. And that's it. There wasn't much editing. So that's why they're so long. We go on so many tangents because it's really hard to keep my guests and keep under control on sometimes. And so yeah, I make the joke that like I yell at them all the time. They're like, "Can we please talk about Super Turbo? I know you guys want to talk about like random stuff."
Yeah.
I saw one where he's in the background and he's dressing up as E Honda.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much going on. I'm like, I just want to talk about Super Turbo, and these guys want to go off on various tangents. It's fun, but I don't think it makes for a very clean video. So.
Yeah, I remember the what was called DJ video. There was Muffin Man and there was Sergey, and they were kind of just joking at each other and making fun of each other. That was an entertaining vid.
Yeah, because that's what we do. Like that's just how we are like normally. So when we turn the cameras on, they're not aware that I'm trying to make some content here. So we went off on a lot of tangents. But the content's really good. If you have the time to sit there and like sift through the BS, there's some really good content in there. It's just not clean edited.
No, I definitely learned a lot from those, and I can tell you a lot of people did. Very thankful you did those videos.
Where are those filmed? Are they in some kind of arcade, or is that Sergeyev's house, or like where is that? It's a weird looking space.
So that is Sergeyev's studio, located at his house. He actually has like a garage that he completely converted into like a streaming gaming lounge man cave type situation. It's really cool. Actually. No, like he has like a whole shelf full of like old school consoles. Yeah. And whenever you want, you just pull off a SNES, a Sega Saturn, whatever you want, just play there.
It's that troll coin money.
It really is, man. All that mob money is coming through pretty good.
I guess the reason you stopped doing it would be because you didn't have the time to do it or something like that. But when it came to tutorials, why didn't you make a Daleson vid, given that you main him? He's the character you know best.
I know. So originally the plan was to do the entire cast of characters, all 16 characters, and call it a day, finish it there. If people wanted more like in-depth, intermediate, advanced level content, I would post it out. But basically, after a while, because the theme of the tutorial is that I would try to have as many guests as possible, because at that time especially I wasn't like a proficient like master of any of those characters, so I would try to bring on other people. That way it kind of keeps the show different, fun. You have more credibility with like actual character loyalists showing off their character. But after a while it got really hard to like get a lot of these guys to come out, and so we just kind of lost gas on it, and then school and work and stuff like that took over, so we just never got around to finishing it. And the reason why there's no Dalsum tutorial, because I specifically wanted to do him last, because even to begin to explain that character at a beginning level would take me like 10 hours broken up into different chapters and episodes.
It's a mini series.
It really would have to be, because he has like 1 million normals. He's got a lot of anti-airs. I think one time I counted how many anti-airs I used in total with Dalsum, and it ended up being like 9 to 12 anti-airs I used across. No joke. Like I could use a lot, and that wasn't even including like the weird ones you can do if you really want to feel yourself. Like just to even explain like how to use his normals, it would take over an hour easily, rapidly going through without any tangents, which as you've seen is impossible over at the Arcadium studio. So I left him for last, and now I've got a lot of positive responses, so I'm trying to figure out if I can do it somehow from home and just like put it out there just so people have something to digest. But I'm trying to figure it out.
Going back to the free play tournament, if it came back on, in post-corona, would you enter the championship edition or hyper fighting tournaments?
Absolutely, man. I love those games. I'm a big fan of Street Fighter too, even like the original versions. And even though I'm like mostly known for Super Turbo, honestly, like if you can play Super Turbo, you're probably pretty decent at like Champion Edition and Hyper Fighter. Yeah. You might not be the super diehard guys who like play those games as their main tournament, but you'll do well. Yeah, exactly. One of the Brazilians. But yeah, there's still a competitive scene for both Champion Edition and Hyper Fighter. So yeah, I was definitely planning on joining both those tournaments along with Super Turbo. I wasn't gonna join the Street Fighter the movie game tournament. that game is
Street
so
Fighter,
awful.
the movie, the game. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, it's already a game. Why is there a movie version of the game? Yeah, that game's horrible. I would not touch it in a million years.
Who would you main in the Championship Edition and Hyper Fighting games?
Even though I'm known for Dalsum, I like playing other characters. So actually, in Champion and Hyper Fighting, I like playing Sagat. He's really fun in those games. Yeah, he's really fun.
One of those.
And
games.
like, yeah, but like also because like Dalsum and those older versions have like different attacks. Like how to do his drills are very different. He has no close normals, etc., etc. So like for me, I didn't want to like mess up my Super Turbo Dalsum muscle memory. Because it already sucks as it is. If I try to like play different versions of Dalsum, I'm going to be completely screwing myself over. And like, so I have a difficulty playing the same main character across different games. So I tend to play different characters for like original Street Fighter 2, Alpha Series, CVS 2. I play different characters and all.
Yeah, I can say that. So this podcast is mainly about the Alpha Series, and like there's a bit of a scene kind of getting going in Australia for Alpha 3.
Right.
I mean, some big online tournaments and some in-person tournaments as well. Like, what's your experience with the Alpha Series? Like, what are your thoughts? Like, what characters do you play? All that kind of stuff.
Sure. So, for starters, I'll preface this by saying I'm not like a very strong Alpha player at all. So if I say anything like technically wrong about Alpha,
whatever,
mechanics or whatever, I apologize. I don't mean to, spread out misinformation. I don't know that much about the game. But for me, I really like Alpha 2 and Alpha 3. I know a lot of guys are divisive about that. Some like love Alpha 2, hate Alpha 3. Some love Alpha 3, hate Alpha 2.
Yep.
I like both games, and I feel like Alpha to me was like the ultimate expression of Capcom being really experimental.
Yeah, that's a great point.
For better or for worse, I think they saw the success that they were having with the Versus series, the X-Men Street Fighter Marvel series games, and they wanted to put that in the Street Fighter because I feel like, I don't know if it's true, but I feel like they wanted to change the gameplay from how it was in Street Fighter 2, which is very slow and tactical and very precise, heavy focus on zoning and fireballs, into Alpha 2 and 3, where it was more about movement, speed, footsies, allowing characters to jump in with like not too much of a threat, and more importantly, custom combos, which if you think about it is an insane idea to put custom combos in a fighting game. But at the time I felt like they were just trying to put anything they can in a fighting game and see what sticks. So I felt like they did that with Alpha 1, which is a horrible game, but you could tell it was like a prototype of what eventually became Alpha 2. And then Alpha 2 was amazing. There were some issues. And then Alpha 3 was really where they put all the zany, crazy stuff in a fighting game. It hasn't been that crazy since. And I know Alpha 3 some people shit on because there's a lot of cheap stuff in it, but that also makes it very great. And enjoyable and fun is trying to figure out ways to do the cheap stuff or counter it, and it makes for a very engaging neutral game. So I absolutely adore the footies game, especially in Alpha 3.
Would you play it in a tournament? Like, what why do you think it hasn't had the, like, either Alpha 2 or Alpha 3 has had the kind of popularity, like lasting popularity compared to Super Turbo?
So I think part of it was Alpha 2 is a much bigger game over in the East Coast, and so I think there's a stronger community over in the East Coast and the Midwest for Alpha 2, and that was just happens to be the game of choice that they made. And so through their efforts, they used to run a lot of like consistent tournaments. The two old series over in New York being a pretty notable example. I think they really helped to market the game, put it on stream. Modernize it for this new fighting game generation who perhaps haven't seen Alpha 2 or 3 or haven't played it, and showcase it that way. So I think part of it was that just Alpha 2 just made a lasting impact over in the East Coast where they started to put work into it. And also I think Alpha 3, I don't know, I feel like some people think it's really hard to get into because there is a lot of custom combos basically you have to learn and perfect and master in the game. And it's stuff like that. Also, it's a very fast game, so if you're coming from like a Third Strike or even CVS 2, Street Fighter 4, Alpha 3 is super fast. I think for some people it's a very intimidating facet of the game. But no, I think it's a great game. I think it deserves more love than it has right now, to be honest. I'm really happy to hear that you guys are doing your thing with Alpha 3 and growing the community there.
Yeah, cool. Just on that aspect of growing the community, like, I think you're definitely a kind of leading figure in Super Turbo in terms of the community and like the whole ST revival stuff. Like, was that something that you were doing really intentionally, trying to help new players and grow the community, or was that something that just kind of came with your love of the game? Or how did you kind of get started with that?
It's kind of a mix of all three. I think in the beginning I was definitely just sort of like a normal fan / player, and I would play the games, but it would be more like a self-centered focus, like, oh, like I need to improve so I can start winning, and winning is fun, and it's fun beating other people, which it is.
Yeah.
But I think after a while I started to appreciate more the fact that, you know, winning is only fun if there's a lot of healthy competition to challenge you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's no fun being top dog and like you beat everyone. It's just not fun. It's not enjoyable. Even though you're winning, it's just not. I don't know. It's just.
Yeah.
It kind of dulls the experience a little bit. So I think
you have no challenge to look forward to. Just people that want to beat you.
Yeah, and like for me, Super Turbo eventually evolved to like became a thing where I would like be able to meet new people through Super Turbo.
Yeah.
So besides playing the game, it was just really fun meeting new members of the community, both newcomers to the scene as well as players from other scenes. Like,
did you meet your wife through Super Turbo? Is that correct?
No. Actually, I met my current fiance well before Super Turbo.
Okay.
Yeah. It's funny because she actually used to hate fighting games and really did not understand fighting games.
And then she met you.
You can hear her laughing in the background, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm talking shit, Tanya. What? Say something. Huh? It's my podcast.
Special guest.
Surprise! A new challenger has appeared.
Surprise guest. Yeah.
Like a Kuma at the end of Super Turbo.
I know. So I won't harp on it too much. But yeah, basically in the beginning, she played like video games and stuff like that, but she didn't have much experience in fighting games. And so whenever we would like play fighting games, whatever, and like not hang out with her, she would get like kind of upset. Like, why are you guys playing this game? It's a dumb matching game. Like, why is it fun? And so basically, being the intelligent Dawson player I am, I kind of don't deny it, Ty, don't deny it. Anyways, I kind of like got her into fighting games.
Yeah.
Not through the game itself, but through like, do you guys remember Cross Counter TV with Mike Ross and Gutex?
Oh yeah. I love that.
Yeah. I got her introduced on that, like those like YouTube shows.
Yep.
So I wasn't selling her on the game. I was selling her on the personalities, the kind of people that were playing the game, the storylines that were coming out that were very amazing. And so she really got into that kind of social aspect of Street Fighter 4. And then after that, she wanted to try out the game. And so she would try the game, and then I would kind of teach her the fundamentals. Like, okay, like these are your anti-airs. Anti-airs are very important so that people don't just jump all over you.
Yeah.
And then
so it was a plan. It was like a fully thought out game plan.
Boys, everything I do is calculated. You know, dolls and players, you know, we're always playing calculus and 4D chess, 200 IQ kind of stuff.
Even in life, do you think your Dalton players impacted your life?
Yeah, I think so. It was funny because I was having like a random gaming conversation with my fiance, as we do. Yeah. And like we were talking about like, okay, what kind of Ninja Turtle did you used to play on that old arcade game where it was, you know, Ninja Turtles? It was a 4-player co-op game. And I was like, oh, I played Donatello because I really like his range. And she was like, oh my god, all the characters you play have long range attacks. I'm like, holy shit. And like I had like a gaming flashback where like I look back on the history of me as video games. I'm like, I played Donatello who has the longest range. I like FPS games. I like playing sniper rifles. I'm like, everything I do involves long range attack and calculation.
Yeah.
So that's how we got into that. But anyways, yeah, she learned Street Fighter, learned to love Street Fighter, got more into Super Turbo because I told her if you learn Super Turbo, it'll improve your fundamentals. And so she got into ST, fell in love with the community, fell in love with the game. Here we are later. And so, yeah, fell in love with me, I guess. I hope. Maybe not now. I'm talking trash, but it's worth it. It was a good joke. I thought it was worth it. So.
Yeah.
Last week I was talking to you about that tournament where you beat Ballet, and then afterwards she proposed to you, and then you proposed to her. You were saying that a lot of people like ask you about that and all. Why do you think all these gamer guys are asking you?
No, it's funny, but also like kind of endearing because me and Tanya realized, like, even though it was really cool that we got proposed and it happened at a tournament, on stream, all that kind of stuff, I think we both agree that one of the best things to come out of that, besides us getting engaged, was like all the positive feedback we got from the community at large. Even from like people that didn't know us, like strangers would come up to us and say, "Hey, congratulations, I'm really happy for you too." I'm like, "Cool, awesome, man, thank you." And then the guy would walk away and Tanya would be like, "Do you know that guy?" I'm like, never met that guy in my life, but I think it was like a moment of like joy and unbridled happiness that kind of affected everybody. So I think it was a good moment for people to I don't know, just have a little positivity in their life kind of thing,
Were you waiting to like win a tournament before you proposed, or was it like planned for that?
Okay. So I know I'm long-winded, but I'll keep this short.
No,
so yeah, I want to talk to you guys too. I don't want to just sit here on my soapbox and just talk.
No. Yeah. You're the star. You're the star of the show.
Oh man, I like talking with people. I hate talking about myself. Basically, Tanya had wanted to like propose to me for a long time. I don't know what it was. She just had it in her head. Hey, I should propose to this guy. It'd be really cool. So she had it completely planned out where like she told a bunch of people, hey, don't tell Eugene, but I'm planning to propose to him at Combo Breaker. Win or lose, whatever, I'm gonna propose to him. And so she had everything ready. Like she had a ring for me. She had a dress. She like planned out with her group of like FGC girls to like help her do her hair and makeup the day of. Yeah. Blah blah blah. So that caught me off guard, and like I had absolutely no idea that she planned this until the finals day of the tournament when she showed up in like a dress and like makeup, which if you know Tanya is like completely not her thing. Yeah. Like she usually wears like jeans, like an FGC shirt, whatever, no makeup, not a big deal. Yeah. So I thought it was suspicious, but anyway.
So you had the raid. You had the raid basically.
Basically. Yeah. So it was very odd experience. So I thought something was up. But she didn't know that like I had already had an engagement ring for like the past 3 months before Combo Breaker. So I was planning to like propose to her too, but I didn't plan it nearly as well as she did. So I was like, okay, I'll bring this ring. I'm like, if the feeling's right, I'll propose to her. And like my only thing was like I wanted to propose to her not around California because we're here all the time. I wanted something special, so like I would want to propose to her. We're traveling to a tournament or traveling for fun or going to Japan or something like that. So I brought it just in case, but I didn't really, think it was gonna happen that day.
Okay. Yep.
So yeah, she totally caught me off guard when she started proposing to me after I won the tournament. And then she did her spiel. I was kind of shocked, like, oh my god, like we both had the same idea to like propose to each other within the same time frame. And then she didn't know that I had the ring on me too, so like I busted that out. That was kind of like it was funny because like the best thing I heard about that was like online because they were streaming the entire time, like the Super Turbo tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like Tanya told them, so they kept the camera on us. And the best comment was like, "Oh my god, she didn't know he had a one-frame reversal proposal window."
That's beautiful, man. That is one of the best proposal stories I've ever heard. I've never heard of that. The double.
Yeah, man, the double KO or double perfect or
whatever. Yeah, double KO.
So yeah, it was really cool. So I'm glad people enjoyed that moment. That brought us a lot of happiness too.
Yeah. Flycade, I've seen you commentate with Arcadium on his stream before about it, like Monday Night Fights. How come you have never entered them before? Do you not like playing online, or there's something there?
So I've played them a few times, but unfortunately I'm spoiled here in SoCal to have a lot of access to super guns and arcade cabinet and all that kind of stuff. So for me, I'd much rather play Super Turbo offline or in person.
But now you can't. So could we see you playing online?
Yeah, I know. So like now I can't. So I'm like really jonesing to play online. So I'm thinking about joining one of these online tournaments, but. I mean, in the meantime, I'm playing Doom. I'm playing Counter-Strike. I've got other online games that I play.
You get options.
So yeah, I'm thinking about joining these online tournaments just to make sure I'm still kind of warm. But at the same time, I'm here with like 2 super guns right next to me. So I'm like, whenever I want to play Super Turbo, I'll just pull out the super gun and play with Tanya and do that. So yeah, I'm very fortunate in this quarantine to have access to Super Turbo still.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll think about it. But man, I really like playing offline. Not just because like it's not ideal in terms of speed and timing and online lag, but like one of the biggest reasons I like playing offline was that I like interacting with people offline. I love talking shit. If you haven't noticed, like even with Tanya next to me, I like talking a lot of trash. So
do you talk trash in the game in tournaments? Like, do you talk trash in serious games?
Oh, never in tournament. For
Okay.
me, tournaments are
You
like,
should do it. Start it up. Like Michael Jordan talks trash, in the NBA Finals. So like, I could see that being a niche for you.
yeah, that'd be quite the heel turn. Turn to the heel of the of the Super Turbo community. Like, oh my God, he was so nice in tutorials. Now he's a complete asshole. What the hell's going
Yeah.
on? No, but like for me, I always feel like in tournament, no matter who wins or loses, the fact that you're there at a tournament, I will show you respect, afford it to you. Because,
Maybe we could have a tutorial on trash talking.
oh
Yeah.
my God, you have no idea. You have no idea the psychological warfare I get into if I talk
yeah.
a lot of trash. It's got me in trouble with Tanya quite a few times. But but no, in tournament I keep it very serious. I always feel like ST is already a very hard game to play, and it's even more of a commitment if you like choose to like travel to a tournament. So like, no matter if I win or lose, I always shake your hand. I always give you respect. Whatever. We could talk trash in casuals. Casuals is casuals for fun, but in tournament, I always take it very, very seriously, and I always do my best. And so.
Is there a player that stands out in particular that you find that it's fun to play them, like more so than others?
I really enjoy fighting Kusumondo and
Yeah.
Matsun. Just their overall play styles is very, very aggressive and a little wild, but it works because they have the experience and the knowledge and the execution to make quote unquote aggressive, dumb gameplay work very, very well. And I think it's very that's in stark contrast to my own style. Like I feel like me and Damdai both come from the same school of lame. Like we like breaking the game down to basic flowcharts and having like an optimal play for any situation and committing to that play. But the more I play against high level players, the more I feel like there is no grand flowchart. You have to play in the moment and just do what feels right, even if it's dumb. Because if you play too flowchart and too like linear and technical, you become very easy to read. And I feel like at the high level, Japanese players who are truly good and talented, guys like Matsun, Kusumondo, they'll find ways to exploit it and punish it. Even though it was like a smart, safe decision, they will punish it. So you have to like have a little flex in Super Turbo, which is why I feel like if you watch high level like Japanese footage, they're often doing like wild, crazy stuff because it's the only way that like works at that level.
Yeah, it's wrapped around again.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said before, like Bai said, at the highest levels of plays, there's always a little bit of randomness because you can't play too clean or technical because then you become obvious and easy to read, and good players know how to punish that, even though it seems like it should be punished. So yeah, so definitely Kusumondo and Matsun.